Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to YouTube. Welcome to YouTube. Yeah, sorry. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed with another day in my life now entering the 10th of Muharram. Thank you for subscribing this channel. And for those who are fasting yesterday and today for this 9th and 10th Muharram, I pray, I wish that you be blessed with Al-Jannah, nothing else, all right? And you'll enter, inshallah, the Al-Jannah from the Babu Ghayyan. Now, I am here again. This time I have made a special video based on my illustrations that I have constructed specifically for you. And today we are going to look into the overview, the entire picture of Regulation 13 of the Clean Air Regulations 2014, and hopefully we are able to capture and digest and assimilate the interpretation therein. Now, however, this is just a share of my experience, my knowledge, and from whom I've learned all the 36 years of my indulgence in environmental technology, science, and management. All right, and I hope you would benefit from it. And oh yeah, I also need to warn you, other than not to watch my video during the khutbah of Friday prayers, but also I need to warn you to the context of this presentation, this display. I am just giving you the interpretation based on my opinion and experience and input from other experts, at least 5 of them were legal practitioners, so I got their advice. On top of that, this knowledge, this understanding is meant for all of you who are from industrial activities, premises. Probably you are an environmental legal auditor, a contract auditor working for DOE, or you're an internal auditor working for your company. Also, perhaps you are some auditors from certification bodies. Now, this summary is very important for you, not to cling on 100%, but to be used for you to think further what the law has installed for compliance as far as managing air pollution is concerned. And on top of that, I'm also not trying to supersede any legal authority or the government for this. No, that's not my intention. I hope officers from those agencies would also be able to watch this video and help enhance their decision making, their judgment. It is a basic video, it's a basic display, but crucially important for understanding. I wish all the offices, personnel from the Department of Environment, especially here in this country, Malaysia, be able to comprehend this simple illustration, or illustration made simple for us, yeah, and be able to use it to further enhance your judgment. And for those who subscribe to this law, especially industries and premises, please understand the fact that the authority uses this law to ensure compliance, and often than not, they got to make a certain specific or tailored judgment based on case to case. All right. So if you do not understand, you are welcome to understand them, because as far as I'm concerned, when I was in my early days in AMAS, we trained the authority to wear two caps. One is supervisory, meaning enforcement, and the other one is advisory, meaning consultation, advisors. Okay, so well, it's up to them. The authorities has got a big role to play, a tough job to perform, and for us in the industries, we have to facilitate them doing their work by us putting focus into complying to this law, and our objective has got to be to prevent, abate, and control all our source of pollution, including in this case control our air pollutants from becoming an environmental impact, namely air pollution. All right, that is our objective, and that for that I have deployed all this endeavor, okay, for us to share this knowledge for the betterment, if not sustaining a good quality of environment. So let us go into the next slide, where I believe you still remember what is called the Google Map. Yeah, the Google Map for Clean Air Regulation, which I posted earlier in earlier videos, and I believe that would be a good what they call guidance. Now, excuse me. What have we got here? First of all, now this video is illustration, okay, and I suggest that we go rather slowly because it involves the law. Anything that involves the law, we have to read it carefully, because the law is written from a certain background, a collection of backgrounds that is being used to promulgate all these legal directives or legal legislative statement that we have got to comply. Okay, do it slowly. Now let's take a look again. I think you remember Regulation 13 that has been discussed earlier. Look, Regulation 13 is about what? How much can we discharge? And there are certain technical standards. This is how much, and technical standards is about how to do it. Limit values is about how much can we release into the environment, how much can be released from our stack, from our LEV, from our exhaust, all right, or how much sulfur shall be allowed in our fuel, for example. All right, how much heavy metals can we release? How much polychlorinated dibenzodioxin can we release from the stack, for example, or from the incinerator stack, for example? Now, when it comes to technical, this is actually the law is guiding us what to do. For example, if you are burning solid fuel for your crematory or your incinerator, then the law put in input uh, to regulate that the fuel has got to be dry. Okay, and the fuel has got to have a certain sulfur content, weight to weight. All right, and all these, or if we are using pulverized solid fuel, the law did mention all that these are all technical standard captured in this law, not found in the previous law. Okay, this is what I have to tell you. Now, look, this is the most important phrase for this particular law. Look, all activities and industries. Okay, all activities and industries where who are subscribing, who are listed, who are specified in the first schedule. Do you see that? Shall comply with the limits, values, and technical standards as specified in the second and third schedule. Do you see that? This is what the law said. I captured this from the law. I don't modify anything, all right, except for perhaps paragraphing 1, 2, 3, and 4. Look, and as the case may be, what it meant is, if we are here, excuse me, if we are here in the first schedule, right, our technical limits and technical standards shall be that of what is listed in the third schedule. At this point, you have seen the third schedule. You have seen them. All the activities in the third schedule has been discussed. And you have seen how specific the law, it's an amazing law, I'm telling you, how specific the law has specified, detailed out the respective environmental parameters of concern, one, number two, which is related to that particular industry and activity. And those in the first schedule, look, shall be subscribing also to the second schedule. Now, this is the first thing that has been said. Why is this said? Because, look, listen carefully. This second schedule are for what? Fuel burning equipment which are huge, big. Excuse me. But there are occasions, there are a number of excuse me, there are a number of situations when we find, or you have found, or you have, okay, fuel burning equipment which is small, which doesn't burn solid fuel as much as 30 kilo per hour, or consume liquid and gas fuel more than or equivalent to 15 kilogram per hour, but residing in premises of, residing in premises of the first schedule. Do you see or not? For these kinds of conditions, when we have fuel burning equipment which is small but is installed in premises which is listed in the first schedule of the Regulation 13, Clean Air Regulations 2014. Therefore, despite the fact that they are small, the operation of that smaller fuel burning equipment such as genset, burner, oven using kerosene, fuel, diesel shall have to comply to emission standard in, look, eventually it goes here, in, they are not third schedule activities, but they are definitely has got to conform to the emission standard in the second schedule, whereby the second schedule will dictate the sulfur content of their fuel, because second schedule first part regulate fuel quality, and second schedule second part for fuel burning equipment regulate the so-called emission standard, the emissions quality. Therefore, emissions from field burning equipment which are small but residing in the first schedule activities, they have got to conform to the second schedule emissions, and on top of that, they probably, this is where it is not clear, the emissions from this genset is probably, this is where there are various schools of thoughts. But what I could confirm is that those fuel burning equipment operations shall comply to second schedule based on what is stated in this law. But whether or not their emission has got to follow the third schedule, the last part, which is about incinerator, that is something else. If you ask me, my answer is no, because that is specifically for incinerator. Or maybe the first part, power generation plant. Those are for huge commercialized power generation plant. That law is written for that intent, not to cover smaller fuel burning equipment. Do you get that? Okay, so for that reason, the smaller fuel burning equipment will have got to look into only the second schedule and their respective emission. Do you follow? Okay, I hope you do. I don't have to repeat, right? You can just repeat this video what I've said. Now, so having said that, I will give you some pictorial, graphical, well, animated representation. I'm not good in animation. I'm just trying my best to ensure that all of you are able to see how this law is being displayed visually, because most of us we would absorb knowledge better when we observe. We are able to observe and hear. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. And look, that is how it worked. That is how we got these graphics. So does the law say about other factories, other types of activities? The law is quiet, right? It's talking about first, second, and third schedule. Now, you look at the second part. What do you have here? This is talking about emission limits. This is talking about units of emission. And that the testing, the sampling is done in this condition. Look, 273 Kelvin. What is that? 25 Celsius? I'm not sure. You know better than I do. Okay, let's take a look at number 3. Look, any fuel burning equipment. See, you see that? The word is any. You see the word any? That is rated to consume pulverized fuel or solid fuel. All right, 30 kilograms or more per hour, or any liquid and gaseous fuel, 15 kilo or more per hour. Do you see that? Where does it go? Where does it go? Shall comply to the limits, values, and technical standards specified in the second schedule. There you are. See now, I've got to put the law beside so that you know This is it. Any huge fuel burning equipment, it goes to second schedule. So that is done. So only that part. Look, the rest, number 4, for the purpose of this regulation, the threshold value listed in third schedule. Look, this is about total capacity. When you've got one or more of similar equipment using fuel or emitting, certain pollutants, then it's the cumulative total. All right, total capacity of those facilities shall be valued at the capacity. For example, you've got 2 or 3 small field burning equipment, let's say firing 15, 15, and 20. So the total of these field burning equipment shall be calculated, and that total shall be regarded as the capacity of field burning equipment from that particular premise. All right, that's how it works. It's a aggregate. Sorry, it's a cumulative. Now this one, number 5, is about what? All right, it's about dioxin and furan. So what about other factories? What about other factories? So those factories which are not listed in the first schedule, they are also not having huge fuel burning equipment. They are here. If they, remember, they are not listed in the first schedule, number 1. Number 2, they don't have huge fuel burning equipment. Okay, let's take a look at the first part first. Their emissions of so-called dioxin has got to be inspected, and their emissions of hazardous substances has got to be inspected. Nonetheless, if they do have fuel burning equipment which is huge, but their activities is not falling in the first schedule, so their fuel burning equipment shall have to comply to the second schedule. That is the basic, I would say, illustration. I wouldn't say explanation, I'm not the expert, but illustration based on the understanding of this law, because I've dealt with law since 1984 until this day, especially environmental law. I've read Canadian environmental law, I've studied Canadian environmental law, German environmental law, Denmark environmental law, Japanese environmental law, South Africa, and a few others, especially, of course, our main reference is the US EPA. So I must say that this law is well written. So we'll go into the next slide, if if you permit. So, don't you think this is an adequate for an illustration, explanation for Regulation 13 of Clean Air Regulations 2014, right? Or you're not ready to go to the next slide? Now, look at this. This is the master key. All right, that is the master key for this particular law, for this particular regulation. Look, that is the only part. That is the only part. Part 1 of Regulation 13 that stipulate that this regulation has a literally double standard. One exclusive population of industries specific in terms of quantum of production throughput, they are all listed in the first schedule. This is literally, I could say, an exclusive cluster of industries. Now, the word cluster is is universal today, and is the word for this year 2020. I think you know that. So those industrial which is in that cluster first schedule, all right, their emission standard and some technical specification of environmental pollutants that they generate must be referred to third schedule and or second schedule, as the case may be. As the case may be here, what I could think of is the first part, which is generator. Okay, and in that case, if they are power generation plant, there is no issue. It's a direct application of the third schedule. Probably if they are in the last part, which is probably incinerator. Now, burning human remains is in environmental engineering term an incinerator, crematoria. Okay, so the crematory process is using an equipment. It is engineering term, in engineering term, an incinerator. All right, so that is why they are not in the first schedule, because they are not called incinerator. So I think their emission and technical standard shall be in the second schedule. All right. I'm not sure whether or not the fuel consumption is more than 30 kilogram per hour. If that crematoria, for example, has a capacity to burn, to perform combustion, which uses fuel more than or equal to 30 kilogram per hour, then they are regulated under that particular second schedule, and the emissions standards shall follow second schedule. But I'm not sure if they have, if the crematoria, which is an incinerator, would have to comply to the incinerator stipulated in the first schedule, because there's an array of emission parameters. I hope not. It's going to be costing a bomb for the crematorium facility to have all the emission parameters for a scheduled waste incinerator. I believe you know those parameters from heavy metals, beryllium, mercury, etc. SOx, NOx, right up to dioxin and furan. That is where I believe, as the case may be. Now, that is still a question whether or not the emission from crematoria would have to follow the conventional incinerator stipulated listed in the first schedule and stipulated in the last part of the third schedule. That is the question. But I hope those incinerator which is not covered, because the law did mention not covered by the first schedule, is in the second schedule. So I believe that is clear. All right. How does it apply to other equipment? So I believe in the same school of thoughts. I may be wrong, okay, but eventually the authority will have to come up. In fact, they may have come up with a certain consensus pertaining to the use of this regulation. So for us, industries, please comply. And if it is a constraint to us, please inform the DOE. And I believe there are some provisions in the law that would allow us time to improve our equipment by virtue of contravention license. Okay. Now, Can I go to the next slide? Now I'm going to show you some representation of the Regulation 13 Part 1. Let us go now. Now this is this is in Bahasa Melayu. You don't mind if I have this slide in Bahasa Melayu, all right? So for our Malay speaking colleagues who might not be able to have a fast comprehension of English. Okay, di sini saya ingin menerangkan bahawa seperti mana saya terangkan tadi, undang-undang ini peraturan 13, tengok sila lihat ini subclause yang pertama. Tengok. Perkataan dia segala aktiviti dan industri yang dijadualkan, yang disenaraikan di dalam jadual pertama. Undang-undang menyebut yang senarai industri, di mana kalau tengok jadual pertama tu ada ditetapkan beberapa jenis industri dan ianya bukan semua industri jenis itu, tetapi jenis itu yang mempunyai daya pengeluaran, keupayaan memproses yang besar, yang ada hadnya dalam jadual pertama itu, hendaklah mematuhi had-had pelepasan. Ini had-had pelepasan. Okey. Had-had pelepasan dan standard-standard teknikal pelepasan yang ditetapkan di dalam jadual kedua dan ketiga, mengikut mana-mana yang berkenaan. Yang mana-mana berkenaan inilah yang kadang-kadang mungkin kita kurang tidak berapa konsisten, tidak berapa tetap. Ia boleh berubah-ubah menurut persepsi masing-masing, cara bacaan dan cara kita mendapat kefahaman, ya, apa yang kita faham. Masing-masing tidak sama, tapi undang-undang ini cuba standardize. Tengok balik. Segala aktiviti yang berada di jadual pertama. Mana jadual pertama ini? Segala aktiviti yang berada di jadual pertama, dan jadual pertama ni kita dah lihat dalam video-video lepas, daripada stesen jana kuasa elektrik yang menggunakan diesel, yang menggunakan arang batu dan sebagainya, yang mempunyai daya pengeluaran tertentu. Tak silap saya, menyamai atau lebih daripada 10 megawatt sehari ke sejam, saya lupa ya. Jadi yang lebih daripada had itu, loji ini dia punya pelepasan ke dalam udara, had-had pelepasan, parameter-parameter semua telah pun ditetapkan untuk mereka, khas untuk mereka pada bahagian A, jadual ketiga. Dan juga pelepasan mereka ini, tapi sini sebenarnya bukan pelepasan atau kualiti. Kalau kita tengok second schedule, ni lebih kepada kualiti minyak yang digunakan. Hendaklah tidak lebih daripada berapa kandungan sulfur. Dan juga itu bukan itu kualiti minyak, kualiti bahan api lah, senang cerita. Kualiti bahan api yang digunakan hendaklah kandungan sulfurnya tidak lebih beberapa peratus. Dan juga pelepasan second schedule juga menyenaraikan, tak silap saya, pelepasan fugitive dust dan juga fugitive volatile organic carbon. Kena lihat balik, ya. Dan ini yang perlu kita semak, perlu kita fahamkan, perlu kita semak, ya. Yang kita kena mempunyai kefahaman yang betul, kena semak dan ya. Second schedule tu pelepasan fugitive NMVOC, non-methane volatile organic carbon, ya, dan juga volatile organic carbon dan juga fugitive dust. Ya, jadi ini bermakna logi ini perlu mematuhi juga sekiranya ada habuk, ya, sekiranya ada non-methane volatile organic carbon. Tetapi sebenarnya dalam third schedule itu sendiri dah meletakkan non-methane volatile organic carbon. Jadi tak perlulah melihat second schedule sebenarnya. Jadi ini yang dekat sini yang ada kekeliruan. Jadi next thing tu kena tengok standard dia. Tapi yang penting dalam fugitive non-methane organic carbon ini semua state of the art abatement device. Ini kaedah-kaedah kawalan itu distandardkan, ya. Bukannya angka-angka sangat, lebih kepada kaedah kawalan dan juga kaedah kawalan pelepasan habuk seperti banduan terlepas. Ini fugitive emission, ini bahasa Melayu. Fugitive tu banduan terlepas. Jadi habuk-habuk yang terlepas. Itu janganlah sebut banduan, So dan juga volatile organic carbon, ya. Sama ada halogenated dan non-halogenated. Ini ada dekat mana? Ini ada semua dekat second schedule. Saya khawatir kalau parameter itu seperti halogenated volatile organic carbon, ya, tak ada dalam third schedule tu, maka industri ini perlu melihat second schedule. Ini lebih selamat dan ini lebih baik sebenarnya untuk kualiti alam sekeliling. Baik, yang selain daripada itu, kalau you oleh lihat, ini semua berhubung dengan apa tu? Unit-unit pelepasan. Dan apabila keadaan macam mana pemantauan itu dilakukan, nampak? Okey, dan ini sub peraturan 2, ya, sub clause 2 dan sub clause 3 ni, bahagian yang ketiga ni kita tengok, nampak? Dia menghadkan yang mana sekiranya alat-alat pembakaran bahan api itu membakar solid fuel pada 30 kg sejam atau lebih, atau membakar diesel atau bahan-bahan api cecair, ya, yang 30 kg ni bahan api pepejal itu termasuk debu, ya, termasuk habuk yang pulverized, disebut pulverized. Pulverized tu maksudnya yang telah dihancurkan. Kalau kita kat dapur kan pakai lesung batu tu, English tu pulverizer lah. Okey, macam itulah siapa yang kerja dekat loji jana kuasa elektrik menggunakan arang batu, tahu tentang pulverizer. Okey, hendaklah mematuhi jadual. Nampak? Clear, Dan bagi maksud peraturan ini pula, nilai ambang. Apalah nilai ambang tetap jadual ketiga dicapai apabila nilai ambang ini maksudnya kalau beberapa loji atau mesin atau alat bahan api di situ, dia kecil-kecil tetapi banyak. Katalah satu unit genset atau satu unit burner tu menggunakan 5 sahaja kilogram sejam. Apa dia? Diesel. Yang nak masuk undang-undang ni kena 15 kg kan, dia 5, tapi ada 10 unit. Maka tertakluk, ya, disebabkan 10 unit tu, undang-undang ini mengambil kira jumlah total, ya, jumlah unit-unit yang kecil itu dalam satu premis ataupun dalam satu bangunan atau dalam satu premis yang mungkin 2 lot atau 3 lot tanah tapi satu nama pengurusan top management atau nama syarikat, yang mana dalam syarikat itu menulis alamat lot 1, 2, 3. Sebab ini semua ada masalah administration lah sebenarnya, pentadbiran. Bukan sahaja satu lot tanah, bukan maksudnya kalau ada satu mesin, satu lot tanah, you ada 10 lot tanah. Tiap-tiap satu lot tu satu mesin. Satu lot tanah hanya menggunakan 5 kg sejam saja diesel. So tak tertakluk lah. Bukan begitu. Kalau 10 lot tanah tu kepunyaan satu syarikat dan alamat syarikat itu didaftarkan sama ada untuk lesen perindustrian, lesen majlis atau semasa menghantar notifikasi kepada jabatan dalam sekitar menyatakan Syarikat Sekitar Sinergi Sdn Bhd, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Banyak tanah saya ya. Jalan Raja Wali, Taman Bakawali, mana saya tak tahu. Selangor, Negeri Sembilan. Itu mana punya sempadan saya tak tahu. Katalah ada yang macam itu, maka Sekitar Sinergi ni tadi tertakluk ke tidak kepada undang-undang ini? Jawapan dia dekat sini lah. Mana tadi? Nampak? Nilai ambang. Lot 1 ada 1, lot 2 ada 2, tapi setiap satu unit tu kecil, hanya membakar lebih kurang 5 kilogram sejam sahaja minyak diesel. Tapi ada 10 semuanya duduk dalam satu pagar, satu bumbung, satu syarikat. Nama syarikat Sekitar Sinergi Sdn Bhd. Contoh. Maka kita pun menghantar notifikasi kepada Jabatan Alam Sekitar atas nama Sekitar Sinergi Sdn Bhd, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dan menyenaraikan ke 10 benda itu. Maka 5 darab 10 dah 50 kilogram sejam. Melebihi daripada had 15 kilogram sejam. Maka tertakluklah. Okay? Boleh faham yang itu? Sebab mungkin ada beberapa isu dalam bentuk administratif ataupun dalam bentuk geological. Tapi katalah saya punya tanah itu Sekitar Sinergi Sdn Bhd, lot 1 berada di Semenyih. Lot 2 berada di Bukit Mantin. Lot ketiga berada di Seremban tu. Contohlah. Tiap-tiap satu unit tu 5 kg per hour saja benar tu. Tapi 3 lokasi yang berbeza, lain mukim, tapi nama syarikat sama. Ini macam mana pula? Nama syarikat sama, proses pun sama, produk pun sama, raw mat pun sama, pekerja lain lah. Manager lain lah. Bos sama. Form 49 atau borang SSM, director sama nama. Itulah juga mukanya. Itu macam mana? Undang-undang sebut tak? Nampak? Tengok Tengok. Tengok betul-betul ni. Especially auditor. Kita dalam bahagian 4. Tengok betul-betul. Undang-undang sebut apa? Bermakna tidaklah tertakluk macam kes kedua tu, satu kilang dekat Semenyih, satu kat Berenang, satu Seremban 2, satu mungkin dekat Muar, satu mungkin dekat Melaka. Ada 10 lah satu Malaysia ni, sampai Terengganu semua, Sabah pun ada. Kilang sama, proses sama, raw mat sama. Kita ambil outrageous punya example. Tokeh sama. Dia employ manager saja untuk run every factory dekat tempat-tempat berbeza tu. Benar sama. 5 kilogram per hour. Tapi 10 tempat berbeza. Satu Malaysia. Ini mungkin berlaku tau. Mana? Kilang recycle plastik. Dia perhatikan. Ada kalau ada injection molding atau burner untuk melt plastik, ada perkara ni. Ya, auditor. So, yang ini hanya dalam premis yang sama. Apa makna premis? Inilah pula. Ini kena buka penal code. Ini kena tanya DOE. Adakah premis itu, premis yang sama itu, adakah kita ambil geological punya sempadan? Atau kita ambil administratif punya sempadan? Atau kita ambil political punya sempadan? 3 perkara berbeza. Tapi janganlah sampai ke situ nak patuh undang-undang ni. Janganlah jadi ahli politik pula, ahli geologi, ahli pentadbir. Kita ambil premis yang sama tu, maksudnya dalam kilang yang dah built up, yang dah dibina. Ada satu tempat, satu tanah, ada bangunan kilang dalam bangunan kilang yang sama atau dalam sekeping, sebidang tanah yang sama, 10 benda tu ada situ. Maka tertakluklah. Okey? Tak payahlah kupas-kupas jadi ahli peguam. Peguam ni kalau minta dia berfikir yang salah, yang macam ni kalau kita tertakluk ni boleh jadi tak tertakluk. Saya dah bincang dengan peguam tu tapi saya tak boleh sebut. Sebab undang-undang ni tulis bukan untuk kita lari daripada undang-undang. Dalam perbincangan saya dengan 4 orang lawyer, satu bekas magistrate tu yang balik cuti kat UK saya sebut dulu tu, kami berkampung dekat Concord Shah Alam tu 4-5 hari juga. 3 hari tu dinner semua saya kena bayar. Bilik dia orang pun ada sekali tu saya kena bayar semua. Tak apalah, geng-geng semua. Jadi kita pakai kongsi, dia orang pun bayar juga saya punya bilik dan makan. Dah lama tak jumpa. Dalam perbincangan itu, kalau setakat clause 4 ni, lawyer tu ada seorang lawyer tu memang hebat. Dia boleh meletakkan rebuttal tau. Saya pun tercengang dengar dia boleh meletakkan rebuttal, escape the law, tak kena. Tapi jangan belajar yang itu ilmu yang tidak bagus. Kita ni kan dah syahadah semua. Tujuan kita ada undang-undang ni, belajar undang-undang ni, ada kilang. Di samping untuk berniaga, kita ada tanggungjawab untuk memastikan kebersihan alam sekitar. Atas dasar tanggungjawab itu, kita sebagai khalifah dekat sini ni, inilah undang-undang yang kita guna pakai. Kita patuh. Kalau tak mampu patuh, bincang. Okey, boleh bawa bincang. Jangan bergaduh. Jangan pula berbincang dengan DOE officer yang bekerja macam tu punya berat tanggungjawabnya, masuk kilang, you naik suara. Memang buku compound tu keluar. Koyak selai. Kalau saya pun saya akan koyakkan selai. Nak berdebat atau nak berdiskus, jangan debat lah. Nak buat apa nak debat-debat? Nak bertanya. Sebaik-baik dengan DOE officer bertanya. Bawa duduk dulu. Jangan bertanya sambil berjalan. Dan pada cuaca tengah hari panas. Pukul 11.30, pukul 12. DOE officer breakfast pun belum. Contohlah. You menafikan ni, menafikan tu. Semuanya pasif. Memang kalau kita pasif, psikologi dia, enforcement officer melihat kita sangat defensif, dia akan korek. Tapi kalau kita melakukan kesalahan, awal-awal lagi cakap dengan DU officer, Tuan, minta maaf, saya ada buat salah hari ini. Memang ini satu kesilapan, sebabnya begini-begini, saya minta maaf. Memang ini kesilapan saya. Saya mohon Tuan tolong jangan compound, tapi nasihatkan saya macam mana nak settle masalah ini. Macam mana saya nak improve. Saya dah cuba, tak boleh. Bincang. Manusia kan? Awak ingat DOE officer tu robot? Bukan. Dia dipertanggungjawabkan atas dasar penjawat awam, dipertanggungjawabkan untuk melakukan tugas. Bukan cari salah. Dia masuk undang-undang, dia hafal dalam kepala. Well trained. Okay? Saya tahu kerana saya pernah berada di situ. I was well trained. Tak cukup training kat sini, abroad. Dan train saya senior semua. Okay? In fact, we were trained dalam zaman saya dulu, we were trained to read gestures. Tengok mata orang, biji mata besar kecil, cara dia kebil mata, tangan dia punya gesture, kita dah tahu dia ada salah tidak. Itu that level. Maybe the OE officer yang ada sekarang lebih dari itu levelnya. So sebab itu saya sebut dekat sini, tolonglah, do not rebut, jangan debate, tapi bawa bincang, faham. Dan satu lagi, janganlah cemoh sangat. Yang kilang cemoh, DOE cemoh kilang. No, saya belum pernah dengar lagi setakat ni DOE cemoh kilang. Tapi kilang banyak rasa tak puas hati pada DOE ni, merata-rata. Boleh kata 80%. Saya punya suggestion, talk with each other. Bercakaplah sesama sendiri. Not talk about one another, bukan bercakap tentang orang itu di belakang. So try to do something. Then I believe Ketua Pengarah sendiri yang berhormat, Datin Sri Hajah, Ketua Pengarah, is trying her best to perform, and make sure the DOE is performing on par, if not better, higher level of standards. Then it's not easy. Jadi, yang bab kelima ni, nampak subclause kelima ni, nampak tak dekat mana? Ianya berhubung dengan dioxin dan furan. So, dioxin dengan furan mana jadual? Inilah dia dipanggil Google Map. Kan ada saya satu video saya sebut Google Map. Inilah dia Google Map. So, lain-lain kilang. Nampak gayanya, lain-lain kilang yang tidak tersenarai di dalam first schedule atau jadual pertama, maka di mana mereka? Senang kan? Tak susah. Lain-lain kilang, nampak? Di mana mereka? Had pelepasan mereka ada di fourth schedule dan juga ada di fifth schedule. Nampak? Boleh terangkan. Namun, ada isu. Ini saya nak tunjukkan grafik. Namun, ada isu. Ada beberapa jenis fuel burning equipment yang kecil tetapi dia duduk dekat kilang yang berada di first schedule. Di first schedule. Nampak? Bermakna dia berada dalam kilang yang dah sedia ada tertakluk di bawah jadual pertama. Walaupun benda ni kecil, mereka tetap kena patuh kepada, nampak? Dia akan lalu sini dulu. Okay? Second schedule. Kilang ini first schedule. Tapi burner dia kecil. Atau genset dia kecil. Standby genset saja. Ataupun dia ada beberapa burner, auxiliary burner untuk beberapa, untuk satu saja, mungkin oven dryer dia. Lain tak ada. Contohlah. So, dia punya fuel burning equipment small, kecil, tidak membakar 15 kg per hour diesel, hanya mungkin 2 atau 5 kg per hour diesel sahaja, maximum capacity. Maka mereka tertakluk juga di bawah second schedule. Baik, itu satu case. Kalau kilang ini tidak berada di first schedule, dah jelaskan dia punya standard fourth dengan fifth schedule. Tetapi kalau fuel burning equipment ini ada di dia besar tau. Fuel burning equipment ni besar, big. Tapi dia berada di kilang selain daripada first schedule. Macam mana? Nampak? Big genset. Big boiler. Satu boiler tu membakar lebih kurang 10 kg per hour diesel. Tapi ada 5 unit. Dekat mana boiler macam ni? Biasanya, kalau contohlah saya boleh ambil yang saya ingat hari ni, textile industry. Dia ada high jet, high pressure winch machine. Dan juga dia kena panaskan yarn itu yang berada dalam dyeing process. Dia mungkin ada 5 boiler. Setiap satu boiler, tapi sebenarnya boiler dia pakai itu besar. Katalah satu boiler itu 10 kg per hour diesel. Sebab dah fuel efficient sekarang ni. Mungkin boiler itu hybrid. Tesla buat boiler tu ke? Mana tahu. Ada 5 boiler. Setiap satu 5 kg per hour diesel. 5 dalam darab 5 dah berapa? 25 kg per hour. Besar tak? Besar. Tapi textile industry tu duduk tak dalam first schedule? Tidak. So macam mana? Emission daripada boiler itu tertakluk di bawah second schedule. Tetapi emission daripada kilang itu tidak. Ia tertakluk di bawah fourth dengan fifth schedule. Satu contoh lah. Boleh? Saya tak nak video ni lama sangat. So, saya nak you berikan sedikit mukadimah, ada sedikit dalam kefahaman saja, ya. Dan selebihnya you dalam praktis, tolong kalau ada soalan, komen dalam ruangan komen video ni. subscribe lah. Kan penat orang tua ni nak buat semua ni. Sekurang-kurangnya tanda you bersyukur pada dia, bukan pada saya, pada dia. Subscribe. Mudah-mudahan saya dipanjangkan umur untuk melakukan lagi sharing knowledge atau benda-benda kebajikan, benda-benda yang ada manfaat pada manusia. Kalau saya ni dah tak ada manfaat untuk hidup pada esok hari, saya minta dia ambil. Nah. Okey, dah. Kita tengok next slide. Ini saya akan tunjukkan sedikit berhubung dengan summary. Ya. Kita buat summary, kita buat sedikit pencerahan, illustration, secara illustration. So what you see here, boleh cakap orang putih balik ya, sebab beramai yang mendengar ni. Anak-anak orang putih makan burger, French fries. So nak cakap orang putih semuanya, saya ni bukannya pandai sangat cakap orang putih pelat. Jadi terpaksa lah saya resume in English. Kalau tak faham, kita komen lah bawah tu, tanya soalan, insyaAllah ada umur, dapat ada peluang, saya akan jawab. Baik, tengok ni, nampak tak? Ini kilang apa ni? Dekat mana kilang ni? Cuba perhatikan. Kilang ni berada dekat dalam sekitar first schedule, nampak? Dan ini straightforward tau. Bila operasi dia tertakluk di bawah first schedule, dia punya emission dan dia juga mempunyai genset besar. Ini nak senangkan cerita ni. Dia ada mempunyai genset yang besar. So, nampak ni? Ada fugitive emission kan? Dan fugitive emission ni perlu ada SOP apa dia? Nampak? Best available technique, economically achievable. Kena make sure documented ya. Dan fugitive emission dia nampak? Semuanya ada tertakluk di bawah second schedule. Apa? Inilah dia, fugitive emission. Dalam bab ni, fugitive emission is regulated under second schedule. That fugitive emission are those releases that is not able to be contained. It is released as fugitive. We call it fugitive emission. And there are some point source emission from processes, and those processes could be solvent mixing, could be a thermal setting, whatever, that releases what? Non-methane volatile organic compounds, okay? Through what? LEV and exhaust or ventilation or opening, whatever you call it. As long as those particles or fugitive emission is emitted through a point source, that would be called LEVs or exhausts. It could be ventilation ducting. Could be ventilation conduit. It could be some pressure relief outlet. Okay, and when non-methane volatile organic compounds or carbons are coming out, then their standard is in the second schedule. And for other sources of emission for their main process, if they are power generation plant, then the point source emission of the power generation plant shall be looking at third schedule. If they are a ferrous, a smelter, then the third schedule. Then now what we have down here is the furnace. It's not illustrated here. If it's a genset, I think you know this is a genset. If this industry is a furnace, then that is the furnace. Okay, this one. This is a source of operation. Then the emission shall follow what is stipulated for furnace under third schedule. And if that is an incinerator, then what is emitted through the chimney of those incinerator is stipulated in third schedule. If what do you call it? If that process is, if that activity is iron and steel mill, then the furnace is down there, and the emission shall be complying to third schedule as stipulated for a steel mill. Metal foundry, oil and gas, if it's a petrochemical plant, if it's an oil and gas refinery, the blue box, then the emission from that refinery processes, that fluid catalytic cracker processes, the cracking process. I'm not from oil and gas, you know better than I do. Those hydrogenation process, for example, in petrochemical, other polymerization process, those processes has got its individual specific limits of emission under the third schedule. So just comply to that. It's not difficult, isn't it? This is very clear forward. This is very straightforward, very clear. Okay? So you shouldn't have any problem at all in this part. If it is like a pulp and paper industry, assuming this is a pulp and paper processes, okay? It could be crafting or whatever you call it, all right? And the emission from that process shall comply to third schedule. Source specific, activity specific, process specific. That is what third schedule is about. However, if they have got genset, even though it is a small genset down here, then the emission is second schedule. Look, if they have a genset which is small, not even 30 or not even 15, small, but they are residing, this equipment, burner, genset, or thermal oil heater, is residing, is installed in a facility or a factory which is listed in the first schedule, then that genset operation got to comply to the second schedule. The fuel is controlled and the emission into the air is controlled under the second schedule. Are you all right? Okay. Can we go to the second scenario? This is the first scenario, clear cut. Coffee, anyone? What is different now? What is different now? Remember, these activity are those activity listed in the first schedule. From A to H, if I'm not mistaken. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. A to J. Only now I remember it's under J. Look, what happened? There's a finger coming from here. Look, it's pointing this way. How much is the fuel burning equipment burning the fuel? Not much, isn't it? Small, isn't it? Small unit. But the activity is in first schedule. This is as the case may be. Therefore, we are obliged to ensure that this operation, the genset, conform to second schedule for the emission, and the fuel is conforming to second schedule as well for the control of fuel quality. Remember the sulfur content? Are you okay? The rest remains the same as the stipulation on what has got to be done for those activities already listed in the first schedule. We don't have to discuss that anymore. This is scenario 2. Let's take a look at another scenario. Remember, I talked about an example of the textile industry, which is not actually subscribing into the first schedule, or maybe we look into some other processes like a go down, like a port facility, like a perhaps fishery harbor, or perhaps canning of food. But they use huge, they are huge food processing, but they are not listed under first schedule. But they use like pasteurization unit, heating using a large burner. These are some examples. They are not in the first schedule. So the emission from that food canning processes, the emission from that sterilization processes, pasteurization processes, or the emission from the go down from the hopper or the cyclone that they have got all these powder type raw mat that comes down, and they are not situated in the first schedule. All these emissions are subscribing to fourth and fifth schedule. Do you see that? But they have huge what? Maybe burner for the sterilization, maybe boiler for their pasteurization or heat treatment, ultra heat treatment, whatever. For the manufacture of certain food, heat is used a lot, and most of this heat would be coming from fuel burning equipment, or they may be coming from electrical burner. Then electrical is different thing, not subscribing to this one. Then if it's electrical burner, then you got to be very careful with the volatile organic carbon, remember? Also regulated under fifth schedule. Okay, but for this case they use a big burner, big boiler, but the activity of this industry is not classified in the first schedule. So look, the emission from the genset, exhaust or stack or chimney of the boiler or the oven or the burner, whatever, is subscribing to second schedule, and the fuel quality is subscribing to second schedule. So here, if you are the EMR, Environmental Management System, if you are the HSC manager, please give a note to your procurement to ensure that they purchase fuel in compliance to what is stipulated under this law. Because if I am a 14001 certification auditor, I would look into that to ensure that that is the root of the environmental management, not just documentation. I want to see what has been done, and I would check. In fact, I would check, do you analyze for the fuel quality? Can I have the results, the reports endorsed by a chartered chemist? I would look into that, and I believe certification auditors will do the same. And also, if you're an auditor working for DOE as a pool of auditors, these are things that could help you out. All right. Now, I believe this is clear. Let's go into the fourth scenario. What is this? This is nice. Why I say nice? Because we don't fall under the first schedule. Do you think it's nice? You want me to discuss in an open video like this? Or you want to discuss with the DOE? Videos like this, even the DOE might, I'm not sure, they might watch this video, and if I open the secret before you, would you like it? Or you don't mind, is it? Or maybe you're an auditor, you want to know, you're a consultant, you want to know, you're a chemist, you want to know. Fine, I can do it for you. First, look at this. Look at it. Look at the schedule. What do you see? You think it's easy? My Arabica, listen carefully. You might not like to hear what I'm saying, but as the saying goes, the truth is sometimes painful to hear. Now, I give you a tip. Sorry. I give you a tip right now. What is this? Raw materials? What? Maybe not this one anymore. What do you think? What's this? Excuse me. Get hold of your raw material SDS. Get hold of your process technology, process chronology, and process description. I'm talking about process detailed technical description. Why? Because it's going to help you to do a mass balance. So the next thing is waste. Do you see this? I'm sorry, the writing is bad. Waste stream, what do we have to do? Got to perform waste stream audit. And in that waste stream audit, you identify your waste stream from the incoming inputs of raw mat through every process. Identify how much in terms of quantity and how much in terms of flow. Or maybe you can just use mass balance technique, mass over time, how much per unit time is flowing through that process, and then how much becomes intermediate, how much becomes waste, and therefore how much becomes product, and the difference of that input and output would be how much is being released into the air. And when you know the raw mat, you should know the SDS. And when you know the SDS, you know the chemical formula of your raw mat. You know the chemical formula, chemical name, not household brand name. I'm not talking like, okay, let's use Clorox. What is Clorox? probably mineral organic acid in the combination of hydrochloric acid. We want that chemical name. Some SDS just give brand name. Then it will be difficult for you to do or perform a waste stream audit. You got it? So with that, then once that is done, then you know what to expect as releases from your process. And then you can find the family or the derivative of the family of chemicals used in your raw mat to do a baseline study in here and here. Now remember, even fourth schedule, dioxin and furan, probably coming from that processes which is located here under the chimney, just to make this illustration simple. All right, assuming this is the source of that emission, this is the process that you have audited. All right, and that is the stack that releases those air impurities. Then there is raw mat over here. Coming in, get hold of the SDS or CSDS, whatever you're using, or MSDS. And then you're able to what do you call it, identify what sort of materials. I'm sorry, my studio spotlight dropped because the washing machine is shaking. That is my studio. I think you got to put elsewhere. Make sure it is pointing towards me. All right, thank you very much. That is my studio crew helping me out. It's actually my wife. All right, thank you. Now, with that raw mat, you know the SDS, then you know the chemical name of the materials which is involved, okay? So based on that, you do what? This is a very important thing for you to do. Baseline study of your emission. Now, this baseline study, I think is not new. Some of you who are competent in IETS, I believe, have done what is called wastewater or effluent characteristic study. Same principle, except that in the wastewater characteristic study, you got 30 over plus parameters. But for this baseline study, for that process of yours, please refer to the SDS and let the chemist come up with all probable related chemicals which can be evolved or derived from that process. If it is a thermal setting process, then you should know about the VOC. The chemist should know. If it is some mixing process, what sort of breakdown of the hydrocarbon or some organic compounds into what type of compounds, usually in the same family, except that maybe lesser carbon. Maybe in a polymer, you've got 8 to 9 carbon now after that breakdown due to the presence of catalyst and thermal setting and perhaps pH and temperature involved. Once the product is derived, then the emission might be broken down or radicals of those processes releases. Then chemists, you got to be involved in this. You got to be good. This is where I need industrial chemist or chemical engineer to be specific. But we have got a chemical engineer who runs for politics and end up exporting back all the plastics. What are you doing? No, I'm not talking about that anyway, but I'm furious when we have got to resend our plastic back. We have chemical engineers who knows what to do with plastic. Come on, you got to be kidding me. Anta balik plastic to UK. Dia nak ambil ke? Forget it. Now we have to solve the problem here. We have people, scientists, engineers, chemists to do the work. And when we do that here, we are opening up what? The market. More jobs are created. Come on, what are you thinking? Sorry, Khalid marah sikit pagi ni. Kadang-kadang we have got education and we have got a higher level of education and we end up confused at a higher level. So sorry about that. So back to this one. You got to do the baseline study. What? Why we want to do this? To identify. To identify what are the parameters related to fifth schedule that we subscribe or related to fourth schedule. Do we have the dioxin and furan? Do we have the dioxin linked chemicals in our emission? That is how you do it. You got to do baseline study. I must admit, baseline study is not cheap, but do it once only and get the chemist to certify. And in that baseline study, we identify what are the parameters as listed in the fifth schedule, as you have seen, an array of class 1, 2, 3, of category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to do everything? You want to do all the parameters in that list? Carry on. I don't mind. But can you afford it? For me, it's a waste. Use your brain, use your qualification, chemical engineer. This is the time. You get your chemists into applied chemists in practice. Got it? So you got to identify what are the probable linked chemicals to the raw mat that you are using in the process and make a list of it and conduct baseline study for each parameter that you have proposed or you have anticipated, and then you identify which is related to you, and that baseline study is a legible document and is a presentable document for you to show DOE why you have so and so parameters and not the others. That document is a legible document because it is endorsed by a chartered chemist registered with Institute Kimia Malaysia, Malaysian Institute of Chemistry. Got it? Yeah, so that is the liability when we are not listed in the first schedule, but instead we fall under other industries. And so please remember, you've got to check your raw mat from your process. Okay? Don't forget that. That is how you do. But they call it in chemistry there was a word I learned 40 years ago. In fact, I did the project. It's not screening, chemical array something. I'm sorry. My chemistry was schon flogen. Dah terbang bahasa German. All right, now I hope I have shared with you right up to this very end of the Google Map of Clean Air Regulation I hope it would benefit you. Saya mendoakan pegawai-pegawai alam sekitar dan semua players industrial, competent person yang kita kenal, yang kita tak kenal pun, dan all the industrial personnel have understood well this opening of the Regulation 13, the application of the technical standards and emission standards under Regulation 13. I'm not saying this is muktamad. I'm not saying that this has got to be what the DOE is perceiving, okay? And the DOE has got the authority to add in or say otherwise. I'm just interpreting this law based on my discussion with 4 lawyers who are still practicing here in the UK, and one ex-magistrate in dah pension, a judge yang dah pension. We met, but he's not staying in this country. Dia dekat luar. But you know, expensive to be with them. Kawan-kawan lama saya. So and from that 5 days discussion, I just give you the gist of that discussion in just a few minutes. I think about 30 minutes or more, slightly more, maybe more than 1 hour. I'm sorry if it take you too long. So this is the best orang tua ni boleh buat for the moment. I'm not trying to supersede the DOE or the law or the government. I'm just discussing knowledge over here, and please use this knowledge for the environmental betterment. Jangan haru biru sangat dengan undang-undang sampai kita mencemar. Right? The intention of the law, remember, Akta Kualiti Alam Sekeliling, I'm talking to you industries, is to prevent, abate and control pollution. That is our mainstream. So stick to that mainstream. Okay, terasa penat pasal dah tua kan. So I thank you very much for your time and for your attention. If this video on the environment is related to you, clear your conscience, do support me. And how to support me in my work is subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we should thank YouTube for having such a good platform so that education and information can be shared by everyone, especially those who are in need of those knowledge but deprived of the opportunity. So here we are sharing a lot of things. I tak ada benda ni masa saya muda. Kalau ada dulu rasanya saya ni tak berapa PhD katanya hari ni. Hari ni what I am is tak habis sekolah pun. Alright. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. I hope to meet you in another video, and please do subscribe, share, and maybe like. Your comments down in this video. If you're honest enough to yourself, do comment down there, and we'll get netizens who could be experts to comment down there. Kecam janganlah. And if you are, into environmental management, you can subscribe to this. Kalau you scammer dari luar, I don't need you in this video. Alright, okay, so thank you very much everybody. Saya sudahi dengan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day, have a nice work ahead, and clear your conscience, stay safe, and let's pray for the early use of a safe vaccine for our COVID-19 nightmare right now. Bye-bye. Take care.